I didn't turn out to be President of the United States after all. My father, he loved music. He loved nature, and he loved the ocean, and he loved the country, and Duxbury was just a prototype of everything he'd always dreamt about. And my father was very interested in coming to America, and his father objected to losing his youngest son, but the housekeeper was in cahoots with my father. And between them, they persuaded my grandfather to allow him to come to America. So they bought his way out of Russia, because the Jews were not allowed to emigrate, because they were all going to be enlisted in the Soviet Army for 5-year periods of time. So, and they were not allowing any Jews to emigrate. So for 15 rubles, they got him out with 11 other young lads whose families had the same idea. And he went to the Black Sea, to Memel on the Black Sea, and then from there to Liverpool on a freighter. And from Liverpool came to the States on that ship, a Scottish vessel, which was quite new, but they were not first-class passengers. And my father came to the States through Ellis Island, was reassigned. His name was remodeled. The original name was Shiff, Z-I-E-V, and he probably got some Irish lad who was tending store that day at Ellis Island who couldn't understand what that was, and so he assigned him what he thought he heard, which was Shiff, which was fine with everybody. My father didn't care. He was off on a new adventure. They went to the east side there. Everybody went into the east side. And he stayed there only a few days, and he didn't like what he saw. And he said there must be something better than this. This wasn't much better than what he left. He wanted something more than that. He was, as it turned out later, he was a real philosopher and well-read. And so he got on the train to Boston, and the people in the North End was largely a Jewish population at that time. Would be down there to greet the new people as a matter of sociability and whatever. And he bumped into my Aunt Jenny, who was my mother's oldest sister, there, who was casing the place. And somehow or other they latched onto each other, and my Aunt Jenny brought him home. And they lived on Hanover Street. And so he was welcomed into the family, and he didn't live there, but there used to be a hotel in Scollay Square called the American House. And his first job in Boston was a porter. And if you knew my dad, you'd know how he would have hated that. He traveled south from Boston. He was looking for something to do and better. He got a job offer for a men's clothing store right here on the main street. It was called Standish Clothing Company in those years. That would have been in 1900. And he got a job there as a salesman in the store. And my mother was still in Boston. They were dating, but nothing was serious. But he began to invite her down. He was staying here. And the romance blossomed, and they became engaged and married and moved to Plymouth. My mother was a city girl, and she was not used to that, and she, for whatever reason, I think she was homesick. The trains came right into Plymouth Center from South Station, but she needed her family in those years. So she convinced my dad to move back to Boston. And in his travels, he found Duxbury, because he'd known it from Plymouth. And he just thought that was the place to be, and never forgot it. So I went back and convinced my mother that that's what they should do. We were the first Jewish family in Duxbury, which was all by itself a challenge. Behind the tree, there were 4 stores there, where the Duxbury Wine and Spirits is, and when the blank wall is, was my dad's store. Bought it in 1918, when I was a year old. He sold that in the Depression years. When we cut back from our house, we cut over through the field. This was our beach for us before these houses were here. I still consider my hometown. My mother decided I was probably going to be a genius, so she arranged with superintendent of schools or whatever. I got double promoted from the 1st grade to the 3rd grade. And so I was only here 2 years. And then we went to the village grammar school, which was down on Washington Street. And I got promoted from the first half of the 5th grade to the second half of the 6th grade. So I finished my grammar school education in a hurry. I graduated when I was 15, which is a big mistake. Everybody else was drinking beer and staying out late, and I had to be home. I had 3 older siblings, and my oldest brother, Victor, went to Partridge Academy, and graduated from Partridge Academy, which was then the Duxbury High School, before Duxbury had a public high school. And we all went through the Duxbury schools. It was sort of unspoken demand that we do well, keep our noses clean, don't get into trouble, do the best you can, and because you represent more than just the Shiff family, you represent Judaism in a town which probably was skeptical probably about what was happening to it. But my mother and dad were affable, not aggressive people, and it worked just fine. We all did well, and my parents were active, and my dad was chairman of the Republican Town Committee for a while, and my mother was the secretary of the first Parent Teachers Association in Duxbury. And so I think we represented Judaism well. I went to Pennsylvania College of Optometry at Penn State. I went in the service from there. I came to Plymouth and I opened an office on Leiden Street. I started practicing in 47, and in 51 I bought the building next door, and I practiced there till 57. I practiced until I was 62, which was 30. I practiced 34 years, I think, and I got fed up. That house is my mother and father's over there. He had bought this land from here up to past McDevitt's house. Groundbreaking was the day of Pearl Harbor. I bought this house here and sold it. I bought the next one up and sold it. And that was when I had Oldfield Lane.
I miss seeing you.
Oh, thank you. It's nice to see you. Nice to see you.
How you doing?
I'm doing pretty well.
Oh, good. You look good.
Yeah, I'm working at it.
Yeah.
I love what you've done.
Do you?
Oh, yeah.
I hope you do.
I do. I'll accept the windows.
You don't like the windows, yeah?
I'm interested in the library anyway, and my colleague and friend, Dr. Grant, Joe Grant, came to be chairman of the board, and I was solicited. I've been on the hospital board for some time, and then they were going to build a new building, and of course it was all out for donations.
Mm-hmm.
And so I chose that as my principal donation. I made my living here, and my family were all here, and I want to be remembered.